So in this video, we're going to talk about dragging and locking cells. This is a collaboration between OpenStax and Divide and Conquer Math. So there is an Excel workbook. So first of all, you can access the OpenStax text for free. You can look in the description of this video. Additionally, if you want to get a free copy of the Excel workbook, you can either look in the description of this video or you can go to divideandconquermath.com, go to OpenStax statistics and look for chapter 1. So I strongly recommend that you have the desktop version of Excel open. If you use the web version, sometimes things don't work the same. Additionally, I am on the tab that says Excel shortcuts and dragging. So if you look down at the tabs here, you should see this tab right here, and that's the one that I'm going to work in. So we've already talked about basic formulas, some dragging, just things like that. So this is a little bit of a review. So first thing that we're going to do is just a quick reminder. So if you have a pattern of formulas that you want to use, so let's say that I want to take whatever entries in A plus B. So if I wanted to trigger a formula, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the equal sign, and then I can just click on the two data values that I want, so A plus B. Okay, so we talked about that in a previous video, but now I want to also state that there is a shortcut that you can use in duplicating this formula. So we talked about in the last video that if you get to this little just plain cross, not the one with the black arrows, but just the plain cross, you can drag this down. And so if you click on any one of these, you can see that the cell reference is just dragging along with it. So instead of having to drag though, so one of the things you have to kind of keep in mind is that sometimes when you're working in Excel, you could have, say, like, 50,000 data values. And so you wouldn't want to sit here and drag this for forever for 50,000 data values. So if you have your data values established, like I do here, instead what I can do is I can rely on the fact that Excel is going to assume that this is where I want to stop. And so I can go to where the cross is and I can just double click on it. And in double clicking so I'll show you that one more time. So I'm here in the little box with the little plain cross, double click. And now you can see if you click on here, it's duplicated that formula all the way down. Okay, and so you can use this in a lot of different ways. So if I wanted to take, say now, entry A times entry B, well, now I can double click to make that formula work all the way down. And now that this formula is established, so what I could do is I actually have two options from here. So if I want to now drag these references so that I'm no longer taking A times B, but I want to drag this over so that I'm taking B times C, two ways I can do that. One, I can come down here to where the black cross is and I can drag over. And if you click on any of these cell references, you can see that everything moved over one. So that's one way that I can do it. I can just drag it over. The other way that I can kind of drag that formula over is I can just copy the entire column. And then I can go to the next column and I can paste there. And remember, if you do that, the cell references are all going to move. So the point of this tab is just to get you to see different ways of how you can kind of use some of the basic functions of Excel. I find that if I repeat them several times, they're probably more likely to make more sense, and then you might feel a little more comfortable using them. Now, the one thing that we have talked about is that your cell references, as you can see as I move along here, all of these cell references, they're moving. And so what if you have a cell reference that you don't want to move? And so that's where I want to introduce the concept now of locking. So let's say that I want to just lock a particular cell reference. I just want to introduce that idea. So you can lock a column reference, a row reference, or the whole cell. So let's just go ahead for a second and let's reference cell A1. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to go to column A1. So, okay, that's what's pulling in, okay? It's just the word data A. Well, if I wanted to lock the column reference, so I have A1, I know that A refers to the column. I can lock this reference by putting a $sign in front of the A. And now that's going to lock the column reference. And now if I were to drag this all the way down, so at this point you might be looking at this saying, okay, I don't really see what that did. It just took so if I click on this, all the references are just moving down, right? And that's okay. I want to compare that to, let's do the same thing. Let's reference A1 here. But now what I want to do is I want to, let's see, I'll center this. So I want to lock the entire reference. So now I'm going to lock both the A. So see, I've got the A up here and the 1. So I put a $ in front of both the A and the 1. Okay, so if I do that, and now I drag that reference down, so now look what happened. So as I drag the reference down, it stays in that place of A1. So this is kind of like a thing just to be aware of for right now, is that you have different ways to lock these cell references, and depending on how you lock them, that may or may not have an impact on how your cell references are working. Now, one thing that will happen, right, so I dragged this cell reference all the way down, and as you can see, since it's only the column that's locked, nothing moved. But now if I take all of this data here, so watch what happens. If I move this over by 1, so now look what happened to my cell references. They all stayed locked in that column A reference, and so only the row moved, the column reference did not. And so when will you use this? There's a lot of times where you need formulas where you're going to lock different things, and so you just kind of want to know like how that impact's going to work. And the way to check it is you can always click back on the cell and you can see what it's referencing, and you can kind of move from there. One other thing I want to note, so let's come back to this reference here. I'm going to delete all of this for a second. Okay, so I'm going to go back to A1. So there is also a keyboard shortcut for this. So on a Windows computer, if you have a cell reference, so see how this is A1 here, watch what happens when I hit the F4 key. So Excel has built in, because locking cell references is so common, that if you hit F4, it'll lock the whole thing. But watch what happens. I'm not done. So if I continue to hit F4, see how it cycles through the $, so it puts it next to the row, the column, and then gets rid of the whole thing. So this is such a common thing that you do in Excel, that rather than make you click on the cell reference, like the part of it that you want, you can just hit your F4 key as a shortcut, and it will do the same thing. And on a Mac, I believe that's the Command 1 key, although some Macs might work a little bit differently. So if that doesn't work, you can just Google what the similar keyboard reference is, but I think it's a Command 1 in a Mac. Okay, and so that's it for this one.